Good morning, everybody. I didn't plan on coming on this early, but I'm sure that you have heard the news yesterday about the Chris Skinner video going national. And of course, Robbie Harvey put out his version of the Chris Skinner, what he received from the police department. And so, of course, I had to check it out. And Daily Mail actually had the same video, but had zoomed in to Chris. And so we're going to go over what I had seen, what we had found. There's still more questions, of course, at the end of all of this. But I figured let's go through this together. So, one of the first things that I have for you this morning, because we're going to go over how Chris used the wheelchair. Now, please bear with me. I am very tired. I got to tell you, I have had very little sleep last night. And it was, mainly because a lot of this bothered me. For two, no matter how you look at it, it's bothersome. If this man was so depressed and so broken that he felt he had to do this to himself, that is tragic. And if someone else did this to him, that's tragic. So no matter how you look at it, this is a tragedy. So I want to go over a few things with you first to show you, as I said, how he handled the wheelchair. So this is a video that came out, I don't know, about 5 years ago, I think it said. And I have it stopped at the 7-minute 41-second mark, only because I want you to pay attention to Chris's left hand, because as we look through everything, we're going to see that Chris had to have been left-handed. He uses his left hand to seem to navigate this chair. So
feel that wind on your face. That's yours.
No way, man.
Yes.
I don't know if you can
Normally
hear
I have
any
to sit on
sound,
here,
but if you
watch
could
my
just
family,
pay
play on the
attention
beach, and that puts
as
me
they
down
back
on
up the
beach where I
camera,
can be
and you
with
can
them
see
instead of just watching
Chris's
them.
left hand is what
It kind
he
of
seems to
makes me
control.
feel
Let me
more
see if I
like
could go back
an actual person
to where you can see it
instead of
again.
just,
We're going to go out. We've worked it out with these guys where we
See
can
that?
be right over here near the edge.
You see
okay?
that? He's controlling it with his left
I
hand.
will tell you that one thing that
Okay, you can hear. Good.
that allows me to is infectious. It can be right over here near the edge, okay? I will tell you.
So let me just stop right there. So you can see he controls it with his left hand. This was very important. And you will see why this is very important. So let me show you some more. Let me show you some more things to and it's just important that we go through. So let me show you this photo. Proof is always good. Evidence is always good to show. Same video. And so we took a still. And this is him navigating that chair with his left hand. Okay. So it's obvious that and if you take a look at the armrest, if you will, the lever is pretty much in the middle of the armrest. It's not at the end. See, my mother-in-law's was at close to the end, and it was straightforward. But this particular chair, you notice that it kind of goes up at the end, the armrest, and then in the middle of it is where the lever would be for him to push forward and push backward. Okay. So let me get. So now we're going to go to the actual file and let me see here. Hold on one second. I'm not sure if you can see that. Tell me if you see where it says warning. Do you see that screen? Please tell me if you could see that. Warning, the following video contains images that some viewers may find upsetting. Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, so this is the actual video. Now you can see Chris, they blocked out his head. Okay. Now, I think this is the one where my husband had zoomed in even more so. Okay, so once again, and I'm stopping it for a second, and I know it might be hard for you to see, but we're coming from the right angle. We're coming from the right side. And so that right arm is down. And in very little can you see the left arm and hand out, but it is very difficult to see. Okay, now let me start that over again because there is something else that we need to pay attention to. Yeah, now wait till it zooms. It's better to see it where it zooms. Now, I don't know if you noticed. It's as if he started to go forward, then went back a little bit, then went forward, then went back a little bit, and then went forward. Did any of you see that? Because I can play it again. Now the dog is right next to him. I'm not sure if you saw it. Let me play it again. Forward. Then the wheelchair goes back a little bit forward. Did you see that? Did you catch that? I'm wondering if any of you seen that. All right, let me try again. It's not going to go backwards a great deal. You're going to see it roll backwards. Okay, here we go. Forward. It went back, a hesitation back, and then goes forward. Okay. Now I do have another video. Let me see if I can get there for you. It's very possible that this might be a little closer. Back. It goes back very, very small and slowly. Okay. Forward a little bit. It goes back not even a centimeter. It's not as if it goes back a great deal. Okay. So here's my observation here. Okay, because I've used one of these chairs, and I'll just play it again for you if you need to see it again, because sometimes you just need to see it. Let's try again. Well, we're going to talk about that for a minute. In a minute, C Zafar. We're gonna talk about that in a second. Yeah, there's a, as one would refer to it, as a hesitation. Start here. Starts at, oops, sorry. If I start it, that would work. It's like you can, and you know how you can tell there's something on the wheel that's in a point, and the point moves. Okay, now why do I bring this up? Well, because I've always felt like there was a possibility. What did Rissa say? No, right, exactly, Rissa. Now, the thing is, we don't see the video bringing him to that point. We also don't see his face. So why would those two things matter? Because we don't know if he was remotely controlled to that point. We also don't know what his face, did he have a surprise look on his face? Did he have an upset look on his face? We don't know. So because we don't know, we're going according to what we see. Now, knowing these chairs, I've ridden these chairs. It doesn't matter what the handles look like. They're all the same. They all operate the same. And you know, this video will be available where you could go back and you can look at that video over and over again as many times as you want. My point is, someone who's going to go forward is going to go forward. They're not going to take their stick and move it forward and then go back a little bit. It doesn't work that way. If you're going to go forward, you're going to go forward. What that looks like to me, again, this is speculation, this is observation, is when somebody is remote controlling, it's you know, when you're doing a remote control, you kind of control it in that way where it's going to go back a little bit and it's going to go forward because you're controlling it by a stick from a remote area, not controlling it. That the lever on a chair is completely different than one on a remote for a game, for example. And so that's what it looks like. It almost looks like someone is handling the chair for him. If that was Chris looking to go forward, that chair wouldn't have hesitated. It would have went straight forward. And that's what I believe. I do believe that there's a possibility that this chair was remotely controlled. Now, this came up. Thank you, Lisa, for getting this for me. And thank you, Kristen, for getting the video from Daily Mail. So can the wheelchair override the remote? Normally, yes, if the system is functioning properly. The internal logic prioritizes direct input from the user over Bluetooth or RF remotes. Safety protocols, especially medical-grade devices, include features like dead man switches, auto stop if signal is lost, manual override detection. But if someone hacks the system, they can disable these safety features, force the wheelchair to accept and execute remote inputs blindly, even simulate joystick input at the hardware level so it appears normal. Okay. Now I have more for you, so just hold on. All right, so let's get. All right. Now, how would a hack work in practice? A hacker or a malicious actor would need physical access to modify the controller. Now, would John Paul Miller or anyone in his camp have the ability to get access to that chair? Well, absolutely they would. Remember, if Chris is put to bed, it's not like the guy can jump out of bed and check what's going on. If he's put to bed, he's put to bed. And so anybody could have had access to his chair and hacked it. Now there's paired remote access, Bluetooth, or firmware or hardware level knowledge. Possible attack vectors: man-in-the-middle attack on the Bluetooth controller, reprogram caregiver remote that bypasses the chair security, modified joystick module that injects false inputs, RF jamming that temporarily disables local controls, making the chair rely on remote commands. Okay. All right, and let me get you the last one. All right. So would the wheelchair know it was hacked? Most wheelchairs do not log remote versus local command origins in a forensically useful way. They might show movement history, system faults, input anomalies, but they typically won't flag this input came from a hacked remote unless special cybersecurity software is installed, which is rare. So, of course, it's not going to detect this if they're plotting. They're not going to add that cybersecurity software if they're plotting to use this chair to put him in the water. You have to remember that Chris's hand, the left hand, and I think both hands, if I'm not mistaken, were had oh gosh, I can't think of it right now. Help me, Lord. Muscular atrophy. So they were kind of atrophied in a way where his hand kind of curved over the lever, and it was in the middle. So it's very difficult. Even if his hand was over that lever and touching it, that might have been out of habit. But you don't really see the way the chair moves. It almost gives an indication that it was being remotely controlled. Now, again, I'm basing it on opinion. That's how I see it. Okay. Somebody else may look at it and go, I don't see that. And that's okay. I don't expect everybody to agree with me on everything in the world. I'm just saying I've used these chairs by experience. And I know that there would be no reason when you're using these chairs and you touch that lever and they're very sensitive and you're going forward, you're going to go forward. There's going to be no reason to go backward. Even if you don't know how to use it and you're just learning, you're not going to go forward and somehow either go into a hesitation motion or go backward a little bit. It's not going to happen. You're only going to go forward. So for that to be happening, I mean, some people may argue, well, that might be him changing his mind. I don't know if that would be the case. Again, we don't know. We don't see the video of him even getting to the point of where he is. It's very odd for him to just be sitting there. No, I don't see that he wouldn't have control of it either. If he didn't have control of it, it would only be because somebody had overrode him, and that can happen. That's what I just showed you in the description on how it could be hacked. Somebody, and even if Susie had remote control for the chair, an app, for example, it doesn't necessarily doesn't have to be what was used. I've shown you guys before, and I might be able to show it to you now. I'd have to look for it. Let me see if I can find it. Just bear with me. It was a Forbes article on a wheelchair being remotely controlled by a game controller. Let's see if I can find it for you. Well, okay, I thought for sure it would come right up, but it was a Forbes article. It was from 2016. And yeah, I can't seem to find it. I'm not going to spend much time looking for it because I'm not going to have you guys sit here waiting for me to find that for you. But what I could do is I can put it in an article. I could put it in the actual, I could put it in down in the chat when I find it. Let me see. Let me one more time. I'll just search. If I find it, great. If I don't, then I'll just put it. Okay, I can't find it. No big deal. I'm not gonna have you sit there. Yes, you remember that story. And to be honest with you, it's in my videos. You could go back and look at Chris Skinner, and it's called Chris Skinner Wheelchair, and it does describe the Forbes article, and it was like an Xbox or one of those types of consoles, and the very remote that they use, or the controller, is what they use to hack into, and they describe it in this Forbes article on how you can do that and override the system in the chair. And so knowing what kind of techie, and I'm just using John Paul out there because why? 2 weeks before, Chris tells him, stay away from my wife and kids. We know how John Paul responds to people that challenge him. We do know that Chris was not happy. We do know that Susie stopped cleaning him, but I can't help but think that Chris had a family that he could have relied on, he could have turned to. He had money. So it's not as if he couldn't go live with his family. It's not as if he couldn't afford a nurse. It wasn't like Susie was the end all be all for him. And I don't see him turning his back on Jesus Christ and his faith. This was a guy who went out and gave speeches, to help people, to encourage people, to inspire people. And so I just don't see, and it's in such a violent way, and it is violent. If you think about it, you're in the water, you can't breathe. I'm sure he knew what that was going to be like. He was not new to the water, so you got to take all of that into consideration. It does roll back by maybe an inch, but if I never sat in one of those chairs, I would say, okay, well, I don't know one from another. But the fact that I've sat in one of these chairs, I've used one of these chairs, okay, years ago, before my surgeries, when I needed it. Motivational speaker, that's right, Shauna. How could a motivational speaker not motivate himself to believe in Jesus Christ? I mean, I just don't see that happening. I find it very odd. Again, everybody that's ever challenged John Paul ends up, some one way or another with a consequence from him. Am I blaming him? Am I accusing him? No. But I'm saying it would be stupid for the FBI or any kind of authority not to look into this. Find the chair. You can find out if it's been hacked. What does his face look like? We don't see his face. How did he roll to that point where we see him? There's other video cameras, I'm sure, in the area. So, maybe you could see me playing, and I hate to use this expression, but devil's advocate here. But when I first watched it and I saw his hand on the lever, it looks like it is very, very blurry. I cried because I thought, my God, this guy must have been so broken that he felt he needed to take. The only thing he could do is just end it. And that really broke my heart. And then my husband was sitting here and he zoomed in. He was the one that did the zooming in. He says, you may want to look at this. And then he showed me the chair going, it's just like the wheels go back a little bit and then forward. And I went, well, look at that. And we both had the same idea at the same time, that we know these chairs by heart. His mother has been in this type of chair for years. And, even my father-in-law and my husband, just having to park the chair for her, have used these chairs, and you just know that if you're going to go forward, you're going to go forward. If you're going to go back, you're going to go back. There's going to be no need to roll back a little bit. It just doesn't work that way. Anybody that uses this chair would understand what I'm saying. So it just gives the impression that it was being controlled remotely. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So I wanted to present this to you because I knew it was out there. Robbie Harvey felt, I guess, his hand was forced to put the video out there because mainstream media got a hold of it and it just kind of went viral. And like I said, the first video that I showed you, where it showed it far away, the actual view, and then it zoomed in, that was Daily Mail. So that wasn't Robbie Harvey's, that was Daily Mail's version. And then the second one that I showed you was my husband zooming in even more to Daily Mail zoom in. And of course, it starts to get more and more blurry the more and more you zoom in. So that was the best we were able to get. Now, I am absolutely totally looking for a video enhancer out there. So if you hear my voice and you're a video enhancer and that's your thing, please contact me because I'd love for you to be able to sharpen it and do what you can so that we could see what's going on with the very little amount that we can see. That box that the police department put over his head blocks more than his head. In some places it blocks his chest and it blocks his arm. So it almost, I don't want to say a cover up, but these police departments over there are notorious for being Keystone cops, so I wouldn't be surprised. But again, it would be nice to be able to see what did his face look like, what was the expression, did he look surprised, did he look determined? We don't know. So Shannon says, I'm not sure if there's audio, but that could be very telling whether, if not, he was surprised, shocked by yelling or screaming or help or something. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And the dog being there also bothers me because, again, if he was going to do this to himself, why take the dog? Because then the dog's going to be abandoned. I just don't see Chris being that. I don't know. I don't know the guy, so I can't sit there and go, well, Chris would do this, Chris would do that. If you're a motivational speaker, you believe in Jesus Christ, you hear the way he talks about the Lord, I just can't imagine him walking away from his kids and this animal like they didn't even matter. I don't see him being a heartless person. There's only really one heartless person in this entire story, and we know who that is. So, okay, so here we go. Susan Lee says, Chris's chair had the option of remote control, and Marty Smith, a friend and country western musician who raised money for it, said he was ordering with every option, so I believe it had remote control. Right. Well, of course, that would mean that it had the app for controlling it remotely. But what we're talking about here is that whether it had the app or not, it wouldn't have meant, because my mother-in-law's didn't have an app, but still it could have been hacked using like an Xbox or a PlayStation remote control. And that's what that article was. And if you can, just go back and look at that show that I did. It's only about 4 or 5 minutes on Chris Skinner's wheelchair. And I explained to you what it said in the Forbes article about how it can be done. So yeah, I'm sure he had every option, and that's great. But I don't know. Maybe they did use the remote control and the app to do this. Maybe they didn't bother using a game controller. But it can be done. That's what's important to know, is that it can be done. So there you go. There is the video. And I also find it very interesting that this video has surfaced when it did. I don't know who it was that leaked it. I don't know if mainstream went and looked for it. I mean, why would they choose now? Why didn't they look for it a month ago when it, or close to a month ago when it was reopened by the coroner's office? I mean, why now? Sharon asks, and was the dog leashed to his chair? I had heard that, but don't know if someone had to unleash the dog. You're right. I don't know. I have no idea. Again, we don't see him, in the chair going up to where we see him in the video. So we have no idea if even he's responding to being forced to that spot. There's a lot of parts that we're missing. So hopefully we'll get some answers. But like I said, I find it very interesting. I wonder if this had been leaked. If it had been leaked, why would they leak it? What would be the reason to leak it? It's as if they want the public to pay attention, to look at it, to start examining it, to start reporting on it, knowing how hot and heavy and intense the Micah Miller case is. So who knows? Maybe the authorities have the same feelings we do about what happened to Chris Skinner. So thank you guys for joining me. Again, it's about maybe 8 months ago. If you go and look at the Chris Skinner wheelchair video, you will hear my explanation from the Forbes video about how this can be done to his chair. And if this show will be available for people who don't make it to the live, you will be able to see the videos if you want to examine them. And I may even put up, I'll see if my husband can put all three of the videos in one to where we could put it up just as a video for you to see. So anyway, I'm tired, guys. I'm going to go lay down. I feel like my eyes are crossed and I'm about to pass out. But thank you for joining me. And until I see you guys again, and God only knows what'll come up. Things are just happening so quickly, I can't keep up with it. But I'd rather things be happening than nothing happening at all. So thank you, Jesus, for that. But until I see you guys again, please stay safe and God bless.